bring my guest in now on the programme. Richard Werly is a French-Swiss journalist. He's the Paris correspondent for the Swiss Daily Temps, also author of this book, France Against Herself, which has just come out. So thanks very much for being with us on the programme.
Thank you.
Do you agree with what Dave Keating was saying there? Existential crisis if Marine Le Pen was to be president of France?
Well, certainly, and I would look at Germany. At first, I'm sure Chancellor Scholz at the moment is quite worried about what's going on in France. You know, German-French partnership is just crucial for Europe, especially in this time of a war in Ukraine. And Marine Le Pen has repeatedly said that she will not accept the diktat, and she used that word, the diktat from Berlin. So can you imagine what it will be if she sits in the Élysée Palace? Not only Brussels will be worried, but Berlin and many other capital cities.
Yeah, so it's extremely worrying, but it is a real possibility, do you think?
Well, I would say so. It will depend very much on the electoral campaign. We're going to see a new campaign. Actually, starting today, Emmanuel Macron said he's going to visit the north of France, where Marine Le Pen is elected from, and she will have herself a council to decide on which priority for the coming 2 days, her program, I would say. So maybe she will come out with some, let's say, reassurance for Brussels, saying things that Brussels want to hear, but I don't think it will be enough. So we're heading for a very strong, tough confrontation. My take is Macron still has a very good chance to be re-elected, especially because those joining him from the left, the Mélenchon voters, apparently a third of them are ready to vote for him. And Mélenchon himself, as you know, has repeatedly said 4 times that they should not give a single vote to Marine Le Pen.
We shall see which way it goes. Well, let's find out from some of those supporters. We're going to start off with Emmanuel Macron's camp, though. Let's hear from some of his voters last night. Hopefully we can bring that to you, Emmanuel Macron's supporters. No, we seem to have a problem with it. So let me ask you instead. I mean, Emmanuel Macron now, of course, as you say, has to relaunch his campaign, if you like, and really go for it and connect with those voters. Because there's been a lot of criticism, hasn't there, over the last few weeks, that he hasn't really engaged in this campaign.
Correct, because he's seen as the president of inequalities. He's seen as the president, you know, in France they say he's the président des riches, the president of the wealthy. So he clearly has to prove that it's not the case. So he has to move into the social direction, being more social, making probably commitment that about his retirement reform, for example. But in the meantime, he should remain as the European president that he is. So it's a difficult track for him because he will have to change without changing. You know, his famous word is en même temps, to do 2 things at the same time. Well, this time he will be forced more than ever to do that.
Well, let's hear from some of Marine Le Pen's supporters. Hopefully we can hear from them now.
I'm really, really happy because she has a better score than 5 years ago, and she is the only person that really can do something for France, because France has to come back to French people.
On est tout à fait heureux de ce résultat qu'on sentait là depuis quelques jours, depuis quelques semaines. Donc vraiment, c'est un très très beau résultat et qui nous donne des ailes pour la suite et pour le deuxième tour.
Ce résultat est formidable, il est dans la dynamique. Voilà, donc c'est absolument formidable.
So Richard Werly, what about Marine Le Pen? Who has she got to try to appeal to now, do you think?
Well, clearly she's got to prove to the moderate voters that she can be president of France. I would say for her it's rather simple. Remember 2017. To sum it up, she appeared as a good candidate, but not a possible president. Now she will have to show people that she is competent, that she is knowledgeable about international affairs, that she has distanced herself from Vladimir Putin, and so on. She has a lot on her plate. Her campaign for the first round was well calibrated, well designed to appeal more voters, not only a traditional extreme right. Now she's got to go even wider, but competence, I would say, would be the key word.
Let's also bring our international affairs editor, Philip Tell, who's also joining us here on set. Philip, would you agree with all that? I mean, where do you think Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen need to position themselves?
Well, I think definitely she has got to distance herself from Vladimir Putin. If you think about the fact in 2017 she got her financing from a Russian bank, she was photographed when she went to Moscow with Vladimir Putin. She's told her supporters to get rid of that photo during this presidential campaign because that was going to be bad news, any association with him. She's condemned the invasion of Ukraine. But if you think one of the members of her party, Thierry Mariani, who was a former member of the traditional right, has met several times with Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, and backed him in the war in Syria, and has also tied links with Vladimir Putin. It's difficult for Marine Le Pen to distance herself completely from all of that. And that's also a sign of what I think Marine Le Pen's foreign policy would be if she were elected president of France. So she's going to have to clarify all of that during this 2-week period. And I think the thing that Emmanuel Macron needs to do above all is to try to link up with all these members of French society who feel that they are abandoned by him. All those who were part of the Yellow Vest movement, all those who refused to get vaccinated during the COVID crisis, all those who look at Emmanuel Macron as being the president of the rich, someone who's totally out of contact with their everyday problems, and who is basically perceived as being too aloof. That is a very, very big problem for Emmanuel Macron. And I think that also explains why we've seen such a surge for the far left in France and also for the far right, because he's failed to communicate and to reach out to those people over the past 5 years, having said that that was what he was going to do originally. And he's got 2 weeks now to try to link up with them to prevent Marine Le Pen from winning the second round of the election.